I'm very glad that Connor exists as well. I'm glad that Connor exists in general, but as this figure in Destiny's life, because I feel like he just basically said as much, that he would not even entertain this conversation with someone who he basically doesn't see as on his team.
Okay, he's here. I'm going to add him onto the stage now. Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey,
well, that
Connor.
is pretty good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that is sincerely appreciated, and I viewed that as my role in the niche for a really long time, is taking right-wing, conservative ideas and articulating them in a way that isn't stupid as hell, so liberals and progressives offhandedly dismiss them without even considering them. So the fact that, I mean, I really started doing that in probably 2019, late 2019. So the fact that I still get to fulfill that role 5 years later is actually really encouraging to hear. But Kay was saying that she was disappointed and sad that I brought up Epstein in reference to a geopolitical conversation about the Iran war, and I wasn't trying to be upsetting at all. So I kind of want to hear what the beef is.
Okay, well, we're like sad, but like you know, we're in chat, so
no, we're gonna be nice.
It's just a bit disappointing, but like if it's a meme position, okay,
it's mostly a meme position, but there's still something there that we should dig into.
Maybe you need to dig into it. Maybe I don't feel the need to dig into it, right? Like we can have a different assessment on that, but we can. It was just more, I think not the only other person, but the main other person who I heard talking about that was like Kyle Kalinske. And that was like a very brain rotted kind of view. So if it's not coming from maybe that,
it probably isn't. Can I?
You know,
can I
so
articulate...
if it's not coming from that like logic, then you know.
Yeah, can I articulate it, and then you can tell me what your objections are. So my position would be, and I actually want to differentiate this into two separate statements, and I think people are making logical inferences from one to the other to make it more nefarious than it is. Okay, so watching Chris Cappy's video summarizing Jeffrey Epstein's intelligence ties, it seems like he was a fixer for the Saudi government, for the Turks, for Israel, for Iran, for the United States. And in particular, in the 1980s, he got his start by being a fixer for the British military-industrial complex. That seems to be his start. He helped facilitate deals where we sold the Western world. We sold Tornado fighter jets and modern missile systems to Saudi Arabia, and that took a lot of the Saudis, like, when they get stuff, they like to get money. They like to get whores. They like to get booze. They like to get drugs. And so it seemed like...
Haram.
Right. It seemed like Jeffrey Epstein was a part of the haram party scene to smooth over this military arms trafficking. And so he also became friends with Adnan Khashoggi, who was the arms dealer who facilitated the Iran-Contra affair. And so, at least the way that the video explains it, he was working with Adnan Khashoggi, which he met through the Saudi arms deal. They facilitated American weapons flying into Israel because you couldn't fly straight into Iran. Then those weapons were flown into or driven into Iran. And then the black ops revenue generated from selling these weapons, which were effectively against sanctioning, that money was then turned over to the CIA for the CIA to fund anti-communist military operations in Central and South America. And so the airline that was used for that trafficking was called Southern Air Transport. And Southern Air Transport, when the Iran-Contra affair was exposed, was then sold to Leslie Wexner. Leslie Wexner being the owner of Gap, the owner of Victoria's Secret. I think he might actually be the owner of Bed Bath & Beyond as well. I forget but there's another household name that he owns.
The limited brands.
Yeah, so he owns these brands, and he's also like a Giga Zionist. And he and Jeffrey Epstein's are both friends with Ehud Barak. And so the point is that, like, now let's separate that, okay? Jeffrey Epstein is clicked up with Intel. In
To be clear,
2000s,
Connor,
Yep.
you would acknowledge that like everything you just painted is a picture that includes indisputable facts and just inferences of connecting dots, right? In that picture that you just painted is facts and non-facts or non-confirmed facts.
you would have to clarify the non-facts, and I would also have to do research in order to make sure that the facts were facts.
Sure. The money of those sales going to the CIA, and the CIA then using that money for anti-communist. That section is what just immediately sticks out to me. Well, of course, you can't confirm that, right?
That's pretty well documented, though, from the Iran-Contra affair. So during the 1980s, I actually have a picture of me shaking Oliver North's hand, which I think is hilarious. So in the 1980s, late 1980s, the Iran-Contra affair was exposed by Congress because Congress had actually specifically prohibited the Reagan administration from providing money to anti-communist guerrillas in Central and South America because the groups that we were working with were pretty fucking malicious. Like, they killed the fuck out of people and they were not nice about it. So Congress prohibited the Reagan administration from doing this. And so it was Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North who actually oversaw the Iran-Contra affair. And there were public congressional hearings on this. So the fact that the only thing that's in dispute from my perspective is what facts tell you specifically that he worked with the British military industrial complex, Adnan Khashoggi and Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. If you asked me like, hey, do you have a document that shows this? The answer is no. I have a YouTube video. But I'm assuming that the YouTube video is from a reputable source, and this has been speculated on by mainstream media. So my presumption is that they have access to the primary sources that establish these relationships.
I do worry that this YouTube video is basically your only point of reference for kind of all of this. Like, I've heard you now repeat this as your like strongest reference point. And I say worry, I haven't watched the video. I'll watch it. I'm not opposed to watching it. I won't speak for Kay, but yeah, I'm more along the lines of what Pisco was saying, which is I don't believe into I actually go further than that, but I definitely don't believe in the maximalist narrative of the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. And I think also along the lines of what Pisco is saying, I think this obviously would have happened without Jeffrey Epstein ever existing, like or very well could have, right? Unless that would have spun off a whole.
There are so many things that are more explanatory than a blackmail, a Felix sex trafficking ring.
Especially because we have no evidence of the blackmailing for sexual encounter. That's also the part of the Jeffrey Epstein
that we're
maximalist
missing.
Position that there is that there's no evidence for, really. I mean, literally.
The only reason why I'm not agreeing with you yet is because I want to leave room, but this is where we can, this is actually the crux of the conversation. So if you're telling and or asking me, is the neoconservative, and I say neoconservative, I literally mean like liberal hawks, people who want to export.
I'm a neocon.
I'm a neocon. Yeah. So liberal hawks who want to export mixed economy capitalism and liberal democracy to the world as maximally as possible through soft power and hard power, because we're competing with fascism, communism, and Islamic theocracy. That is sufficiently explanatory to me that you do not need Jeffrey Epstein to explain our intervention in Iran. So we agree, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The only reason why I bring up Jeffrey Epstein, though, and I want to keep going with it because I think this is where you guys would push back. So for me, if it's as simple as this guy was clicked up with Intel, and then he used that to get a sweetheart deal from the federal government, and that's the end of the story, then that should be the end of the story. But we could have released that over the past 6 months, over the past year, over the past 5 years. We could have released. Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe that's because we don't have. Maybe that's because we don't have evidence that he was given a quote unquote sweetheart deal because of those things. Like there are people who have looked into the sentencing and all of this stuff in the Florida case, and there really isn't evidence that he committed such a heinous, like it's not like he was supposed to receive.
I don't agree. So I'll tell you why I don't agree, though.
Talk about it. You want to pull some of the stuff up?
Sure.
It's
but
not like he was facing a life sentence and he got 3 years on house arrest. Like
for what he was actually convicted of.
Correct.
Not for what all of the charges and stuff before the plea came.
Okay,
For what he
but let's
actually
talk about
ended up
what could be
pleading to.
adjudicated. Yeah.
Let's talk about this, though. Okay. So Alex Acosta, part of the deal that Alex Acosta signed included the sworn written affidavits of 40 victims who claimed to have been sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein in this way. So from a law enforcement perspective, a sworn so basically, let me break this down from, obviously I was just a city cop, but I still think these things stand true regardless of my personal experience. In individual witness testimony, as a law enforcement officer, I did not treat an individual witness testimony as anything unless it was corroborated by additional facts. Okay? And the reason being is because oftentimes people are hyperbolic from their perspective in order to make the best case possible for themselves. And so as a result, like, let's talk about domestic violence battery real quick. If there's a female who got into a fist fight with her boyfriend or husband, and then there's a male who's getting into a fight with the boyfriend or husband, they might have contradictory narratives against each other that they both sincerely believe because they're entrenched within their own bias. And therefore, you cannot treat the witness testimony as solid evidence. However, that being said, once you get the same witness statement over and over and over and over again, that raises the threshold of which witness testimony is treated.
So, Connor, if they're sealed, how do you know that these are all 40 consistent, coherent, actual victim? You don't, right? And so you would think that if there were 40 women who had these super strong cases that all resembled each other, they would have been part of this trial, right? There were young girls who were brought in to stand witness, who were part of this trial. So it is a bit suspicious, especially when we know
a part of which trial?
In the Florida trial, the one that he was
it never made it to trial.
He supposedly got it.
It never made it to trial because they signed a plea agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me slightly change what I'm saying. These women could have been deposed. These 40 victims could have been deposed to build the case. So why wouldn't that have happened?
That's actually a lot of the critics of the Florida case. That's their exact question. So these women, hold on real quick. These women were deposed. Their sworn written statements are a part of the record. But what's happening is the Trump administration, I think specifically in reference to this case, they said, because they've received the Jeffrey Epstein law, right? Which basically says you need to release everything except for victim information, okay? And so hold on real quick, because this is important. The South Florida case, the DOJ told the South Florida people, hey, you release it. And then the Florida people didn't release it. And in the statements from the District of Florida, they say, hey, we have all these rules against releasing grand jury testimony because we have all these protection laws, whereas the law is directing the DOJ to release these files. You do not need our authorization to do so. We will not violate the guidance from our district. You have the files, you redact them, you release them. And so far, the DOJ has not complied with that. So back to you, I would say the federal government is in direct violation of a unanimously passed statute. Why is the DOJ refusing to release this information? And why is the information that they're releasing, hold on real quick, final statement, I promise. Yeah. Why is the information that they're releasing clearly violating the statute?
So you're saying that they are not releasing information that they should release, and that they are releasing information that is contraindicated by the new Epstein law, basically? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Leslie Wexner, the person that I mentioned as the person...
Sorry, where is the evidence, hold on, that there is this standoff between the between Florida and the DOJ.
You could literally just Google. I mean, I could pull it up, but it's basically like judges rule against releasing Florida Epstein files or something. And the way that Fox News is reporting it is they're saying they're blaming the judges for not releasing it. So give me 1 second. But the judges themselves, if you read their statements, the judges are saying this is a total optics bullshit by the Trump administration. The Trump administration could release these files at any moment. We have local prohibitions against the releasing of this kind of information. The federal government does not.
Okay.
Just 1 second. Okay. So my understanding is that there's 17 affidavits from the Florida case that ended up coming into play. There may have been more like
alleged victims.
There may have been more interviews done, but what I'm seeing is that there were 17 affidavits. Like, I mean,
okay, well, how many rape teenagers do we need before we start caring?
No,
hold on, but wait, Connor, we don't know that these are rape teenagers. I mean, even that is just
clarifying.
Yeah, sure.
Saying,
I'm being flippant though, because it feels sweepy.
But
I think doesn't the truth matter though, right? Like this
Absolutely.
is one area where everyone like should be on edge and should take this stuff seriously, and it's because we're talking about pedophilia, right? It's because we're talking about the thing that most normal people recoil, right? It's like the most disturbing, deranged thing that most people can think of is harming innocent children. We all agree with that. The truth just does matter, right? So again, even in the women who were or the girls, these were young girls who were on the record, whose affidavits and depositions we've seen, the overwhelming majority of them never claimed penetration. So again, to say how many raped teenagers do you need to like be angry about this? It seems like what was happening was a lot of gross massages. And again, this isn't even that uncommon. So let me make
hand jobs.
No,
from
literally
teenagers?
massages. No, actual physical massages.
No. Virginia Giuffre. No.
Virginia Giuffre is the least credible person of all of these witnesses here. She has had to retract her accusations against several of the key figures in this case.
Are you talking about Alan Dershowitz?
Yes, and King Prince King Andrew, whatever the fuck his name is. Yes, and Alan Dershowitz. Yes. So
hold on. No. This does feel like sweeping, and I'm really not trying to make this personal.
Why? Because women never lie, right?
No, women lie all the fucking time. That's not what we're doing here. No. Hold on. Okay, let's talk about Dershowitz and let's talk about Prince Andrew. Okay, so Prince Andrew settled out of court, meaning that
which does not mean that he's guilty of any sex crimes at all, to be clear. It obviously doesn't mean that.
He's photographed over a teenager.
He's
posing with his arms over the teenager. He's holding like a 16-year-old Virginia Giuffre like this in photos.
Okay.
And you're saying that it's illogical to presume that they had sex?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'm absolutely.
How many 16-year-olds? I'm a 40-year-old man. Do you know how many teenage girls I've had my arm around, or how many teenage girls I've been posing over doing a push-up? Zero teenage girls. Okay? So why is a 40-year-old man holding onto a teenage girl as if they were in a romantic liaison, and also in effectively a push-up position over a teenage girl? Do you have a logical explanation for that? Because I don't know any adult man who I don't know any adult men who have done that.
Okay, so if I can find photos online of adult men with their arm around a teenage girl, we should assume that means that he raped her.
No, but clearly we have the capacity as human beings to read body language. 90% of communication is nonverbal. And so if the body language is romantic and the person is underage, why am I being asked to deny the evidence of my eyes?
I don't perceive the photos of the two of them standing there as romantic.
Nor, yeah.
Also, I'm not sure if we have you confirmed the dates of these photos either?
Why, as a dickhead YouTuber, do I have to verify
have
all
to.
of the
You don't
age?
have
Hold
to.
on.
You're just making
Why
the
do
claim.
I have to verify the dates and
You
ages
don't.
when the Department of Justice, it's their responsibility to do so, and they're refusing to do so in violation of federal law?
Again, I would need evidence that they're refusing to like date these photos of Virginia Giuffre.
I
And again, you
sent
should
you.
know that a lot of the this is the link that you sent me is evidence that they are refusing to date the photo of Prince Andrew and
No, this
Virginia
is your
Giuffre.
earlier question about the courts not releasing Epstein files and the courts redirecting it back to DOJ because DOJ is legally compelled to comply with the Epstein laws.
Okay, so you're saying that that's also the case in dating the photo of Virginia Giuffre and Prince Andrew.
No, I'm saying that there's a ton of evidence that you guys are ignoring. For instance, Leslie Wexner was listed as an indictable co-conspirator. So the FBI believed that they had sufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against a half dozen people, but did not do so. And they redacted Leslie Wexner's name from the files.
So arguably, Connor, let's say that the Epstein maximalist position is not true. Let's say it's not true, that there was not a pedophilic blackmail ring going on, that Epstein, like Pisco said, that Epstein was guilty of essentially trafficking or procuring young adult women and underage women for sexual contacts and massages and stuff, and Ghislaine was helping procure these women. If that is the truth of, which by the way, that's heinous enough. Like we can all be upset enough about that, right? So if that case is true, then yes, I also believe that there is no reason to expose all the emails and text messages and history of all people who may have been associated with this man, because it is already ruining innocent people's lives.
It doesn't.
Innocent
It actually.
who didn't.
This your opinion in reference to this so doesn't matter. It's almost funny, and the reason why is because the Congress and the Senate have already passed a law stating that anyone who is not a victim is exposed in these files.
And did you know that the victims include like uncles and cousins and brothers of the alleged victims? That the 1,000 victims that the government talks about, that list includes family members of alleged victims? Are you aware of that?
I don't care. Redact their names and release the body of texts. So, for instance, hold on. What's shocking to me is not what you're saying. What's shocking to me.
What's the reason to redact the names of all the people who have already come publicly on the record? All of these people are adults now. Many of them have come on the record themselves. So what is the purpose in redacting their names in the files at all?
I don't care. Don't redact their names for all I give a shit. I want the information. So for instance, hold on. This is one of the things that bugs me about your position. So there was a grand jury indictment out of New York where this law is saying the only redactions that are acceptable are the names of victims. And instead of doing that, they just blacked out the text. That's not acceptable. That's not in compliance with the law. So whatever the narrative is, it should be blank made a sworn written statement on June 17th, 2008, stating to the effect that Jeffrey Epstein and alleged co-conspirator, blah, 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 sex trafficked them to New York, blah, 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 blah. That's the way the documents should be coming out, and they're not. And the fact that that doesn't alarm you more is, I think, a disconnect in this conversation.
No, because I think this is basically I think this is a politically motivated moral panic. So I think that essentially I think that no one would have been harmed further if none of these 3 million documents came out. If you're going to release them, release all of them. Don't play these games. Don't feed the conspiracy theorists. So I'm with you that if you're going to release them, transparency is the best way to do that. But I don't think a single person has been helped or saved from harm by releasing literally any of this. I think this is a politically motivated, on both sides of the aisle, weapon that people are using against each other. It's a moral panic now. Now a good portion of the country and our elected officials believe that there was some criminal pedophile ring essentially controlling the world, if not just our government and our closest allies. So yeah, no, I think no one has been helped by any of this. I think it's just essentially deranged our population. Can you name like
so hold on.
Who has benefited from any of this?
Yes, I can.
Tangibly.
Yes, I can.
Like, can you name a victim who has tangibly benefited from any of this?
Yes, I can. Well, number one, Virginia Giuffre was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for her silence in reference to Alan Dershowitz. So yeah, she materially benefited from the situation.
You can say that. You can say for her silence.
Yeah, Alan Dershowitz said, she alleged that Alan Dershowitz,
and that was never adjudicated.
She alleged that Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, and Ehud Barak all had sex with her, and she was paid probably a few $100,000 to a few $1 million to do it.
Just pause.
But that doesn't mean that the documents coming out help her.
Sorry,
but that I thought the question was how did the question was.
How did the release of the documents help people? I can answer that question as well.
She's dead, so
that is my question.
It doesn't really help her directly.
Well, right, but I was saying the exposure of the incident obviously materially benefit Virginia Giuffre. So let me make a separate assertion. So I think that, interestingly enough, because you were trying to parse this out earlier, so I'll just do it for you because it might not be something. It's so unpopular to articulate that I think that you can only be like a vociferous critic and articulate this. So I'll be a vociferous critic and articulate it. These teenage girls in the 80s and 90s were getting pimped out and doing so on a semi-voluntary basis. They were minors, which means that they didn't have the legal ability to volunteer.
Some of them were minors, but yes.
Yeah.
Well, so for instance, there was the, I would have to look her up. But effectively, there was the gal who did allege forcible sexual assault from Donald Trump. But the way that she stated the relationship began, and I think this is true of a majority of their relationships, is effectively that they were flown out for modeling gigs and teen beauty pageants and teen competitions. Then they stayed later and they partied. And then after they partied, at a certain time at night, things got a little creepy. And effectively, the models were encouraged to sleep with rich and powerful men in order to clout, influence, money, job opportunities, whatever.
Yeah, which young girls can never be internally motivated to do, of course, right? That has to come from external pressure.
Well, no. Like, obviously, if a 17-year-old girl goes, oh, that's a billionaire, and he said he would give me a job, so I'll just give him a blowy in order to try to get that job.
Do we even have evidence? Do we even have evidence of the quid pro quo here of like, I'm going to give you a job?
No, I mean, alleged in sworn written testimony about Jeffrey Epstein, probably dozens of times it's alleged, because Jeffrey Epstein was friends with Les Wexner, and Les Wexner was the owner of Victoria's Secret. So anyways, the thrust of this, rather than getting boiled down in minutia, I think that the point that this doesn't have any positive impact going forward, no, I think that it has a positive impact to articulate the way in which these girls were abused against the legal system of the United States. That way, young women...
That was already articulated, right? Because that was literally what he was put in jail for in the Florida case, was for bringing underage girls to his home.
The fact that you think a single charge of soliciting sex from a 17-year-old is appropriate in this case is fucking mind-blowing to me.
And lifetime registry on a sex offender list. I mean, that affects
and during the year and a half
that
that he served, he was on work release where he was outside of the prison 60 to 70 hours a week. So hold on.
Okay,
that's appropriate. So hold on. If this guy was like a redneck trailer trash piece of shit, and he was alleged to have sexually abused dozens of teenage girls, but they were only able to convict him of one, he's not getting a year and a half work release. That's unheard of.
So to be clear, and the one girl that he was convicted of said that she consented to it. She said that the difficulties relating to this fiasco were with the legal implications that it brought upon her.
This is the crux of the argument. if it's such a nothing burger, then why is the Trump administration not releasing the grand jury affidavits and sworn written statements of the victims from the Florida case?
Then why didn't the Biden administration do it? This is the problem. This is why this is just so
no. Because I'll tell you why, Tali. I'll tell you. Because it embarrassed Peter Thiel. Because it embarrassed Bill Gates. Because it embarrassed rich and powerful men who are donors to both sides. That's why they didn't release
Okay, so then everyone is okay. So that I'm sorry, I don't.
But the grand jury, the grand jury testimony from Florida is available to read. I read it. It's there.
Okay, so you have sworn written testimony from 17 victims.
Not the 17, but there's there's part of the grand jury testimony, especially with the person that he ended up taking the plea deal over. That one's there and you can read. I don't know about all the other affidavits. I don't think all the affidavits, I don't know if they all went to the grand jury or not. Because you can write an affidavit outside of like a grand jury.
That by itself.
So I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying
that by itself is a sweep.
Wait, hold on.
Hold on.
Hold on. Jinx. How is that a sweep? Wait.
If you have the sworn written statements of victims to an alleged crime, and then you refuse to charge said crime, and those files are not publicly available, that's crazy.
Wait.
So I'm sorry. Let me say something really quickly.
There can be issue. Hold on. Just wait 1 second.
Yeah.
There can be issues that they find with certain people. I'm not saying all 17. That seems like a high number to just completely discount. I would agree with that. But there can be a reason where you would take a sworn affidavit and look into it and not be able to find it credible or find that it lined up, or like there's reasons that you could not take that and charge a crime that exists in the world. Yes. Okay.
Sure.
I just want to make sure on the right page. I agree that 17 is a lot of affidavits to ignore. And that there could be something up with that. I don't know where 17 all of the rest of them are.
In, and all are totally right. Then that would be reason to wonder. But here, I'm just going to lay out really quickly, and this is where Kay and I slightly differ in disposition. But the reason that essentially I have such a hard time buying so much of this is because I am anti-conspiratorial by nature. Everything that you are positing requires a whole bunch of people to agree to lie and to engage in this nefarious thing, which I would need to understand what is the motivation for these people, for all of these people to implicate themselves in a crime, in a cover-up of horrific sex crimes, because that's what we're talking about.
Because
I have seen no good evidence that all these disparate individual elected officials and judges and all of these people would be willing to sacrifice their lives, essentially, if any of this were to ever come out, for what?
It's only one man. It's Alex Acosta. And so Alex Acosta doing a plea deal before
sorry, Connor. It's not only one man, because let's say Alex Acosta was the only one who could make the decision, let's say, right? Yep. And all of these other people who have read these sworn affidavits and have read all of this stuff, they disagree with him. They know the true horrors of what happened, right? So all of them are staying silent now.
They haven't been silent. They've been bitching for years. They've been bitching for decades. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, the head of the Palm Beach County, hold on. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office has been bitching about this for decades.
Yes, that they were displeased about the federal government essentially taking priority in some aspects, and also that they felt that he didn't get a long enough sentence. Okay, they felt like what you're saying.
So they haven't been silent.
They haven't come out with the evidence that you're talking about.
They're not allowed to, because it's a part of the federal indictment.
And none of them, okay, so you're saying, okay, so it's a federal indictment. So Connor, if you were required by law, okay, to not release it's part of your job. You're in the military, whatever, right? You got to follow the chain of command. You are required by law. You're telling me that you're not going to come out as a whistleblower and say, fuck it, I'll go to jail if I have to. There were hundreds of little girls who were raped. You're saying that you would just sit back and say, oh, well, it's my job duty. I'm just gonna be a little pissed about it.
It depends on the person and the context.
We have to we have to weigh out the severity of the claims that people are making and with the actions that are associated.
Do you think in the 80s and 90s, okay, especially
I think
in
there
the
would have
80s
been,
and 90s, hold on.
I think there would have been at least one person whose conscience would not have been able to handle if they truly believed that hundreds of little girls were raped by this man. Yes, at least one person would have said, "Fuck it, I'm going to jail. Here it is." Yes, I firmly believe.
What if here's the other thing though. What if it's a legal issue, but because of the cultural context of the time, it's not as big of a moral issue? So for instance, hold on, let me articulate this. In the 1980s, prior to the passage of domestic violence battery was viewed as an in-home deal. Hold on, let me articulate this. I see you trying to talk.
We're talking about 2003 and 2004, though. We're not talking about the 1980s. And
a majority of the victims, I almost guarantee you, are from the 1980s and 1990s.
Okay, but he was tried in the 2000s.
And a majority of the allegations stem from the 1980s and 1990s.
Yes, okay, but the people involved in charging him and all this stuff they're not stuck in a time machine. They're not frozen in glass in the 1980s. They've lived through now the 90s and the 2000s, okay? So they're coming into this era.
Let me articulate the problem before you even get to it.
Even if the times were different then, it's 2026. Everyone has been brought up to date in what we find socially acceptable now. Why are they still holding their tongue? Why haven't they just come out and released it? There would be a whistleblower out there.
That's a great question. And by the way, hold on, Tali Botz.
Then what's your answer?
My answer is that they are. The malicious compliance, what's so interesting about the Epstein files is consistently, I think it's partially incompetence, to be honest, but I also think that there are malicious compliers who are part of the FBI who redact in line with Trump administration guidance and instead of in the statute guidance, but then they leave enough information in order to contradict their own sources for the files to be pulled. And so as a result,
again, you're also now, but you're impugning another conspiracy. So now
no,
it's
I'm
the
not.
redactors who are,
and this is also
together.
verifiable.
You are though. Now it's the redactors who are getting together, not listening to the law, listening more to the Trump administration's.
That's just correct.
Whatever guidelines, and then they're putting out this stuff so that it'll contradict this and will throw people off the scent. That's another conspiracy.
No. You're misunderstanding.
It's a much smaller scale one.
You're misunderstanding. You're misunderstanding. The law says one thing. It says release all 6 million files with victims' information redacted. Okay, that's what they're stating. What the Trump administration has done
with alleged victims. So that also means that we redact the names of people who may have completely made shit up, who may have been out for money, who may have been deranged and mentally ill.
That has nothing to do with the thrust of my point.
No, it certainly does, right? Because then we're allowing out. Okay, so let's hear this story about this the European president who raped this girl and then turned into a werewolf overnight and then ate her, and then her friend watched and gave this sworn testimony. All the information gets to stay, but we never get to criticize the source of the complaint. That's the problem too. This is part of the problem in releasing all of these files in this way.
That's a separate point. Okay. The point is...
It's related to redactions, but okay.
Okay. 6 million files are supposed to be released exclusively with alleged victims and victims' information redacted. The Trump administration has not complied with this law that was passed, I think, almost unanimously in both houses with a veto-proof majority. They have not complied with this law.
It shouldn't have been, but yeah.
Okay. The shouldn't have been, I don't care anymore. It's done.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Sure.
So if a law is passed,
they should comply with they should comply with the law.
But it's not just a question of should they comply. The question is, how are they complying? So for instance, the indictable co-conspirators. These are people that the FBI believed that there was sufficient evidence to charge these 6 people with being a part of the sex trafficking ring. The members who were listed as indictable co-conspirators were also redacted from the files. But then what I would say is the malicious compliance component is that they weren't redacted in other locations sufficiently that people were able to uncover who the indictable co-conspirators were using effectively a checkerboard of information that they shouldn't even have to do. We should not have to be playing Clue to figure out who the indictable co-conspirators are, and yet we have been able to because people at FBI and DOJ are not following Trump guidance.
Arguably, we shouldn't know who these unindicted co-conspirators were because they weren't indicted.
Fuck that. You think a cop?
You can say fuck that.
A cop and a state attorney say we have enough to go after this person, and then somebody else says nah, and then you
hold
go
on, do you have evidence
nothing
that,
to see here.
Hold on, do you have evidence? No, sorry. Do you have evidence like someone came in and said nah? Because my understanding is often these types of
because if they're indictable and they're not indicted, somebody said people. No. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so who said no, Connor?
Probably a state attorney.
But probably, so we don't know.
We know the role of the person who would say no is a state attorney.
Okay, so everyone
from indictable to unindictable with new information. So they're
okay, but hold on. You guys are alleging that this is like a crazy pants conspiracy, but it's not. What is that? Lunch? Amazing. Thank you. Sorry, my mom's being extra nice today. She got me lunch. Well, okay. My mom is being extra nice in general, and she wants you to know that she's not just being nice today. She's being nice in general. Okay.
I believe that.
Got it.
So, hold on. Let's talk about this real quick. We were at like laws, indictments, unindictable to indictable. So you're saying that I'm alleging a crazy conspiracy theory, but I'm not. And the reason why is because there's an analog here. Okay. I am the most vociferous Hunter Biden critic in the online politosphere, and my chat fucking hates me for it. Okay? They hate me for it. But what the IRS whistleblowers allege during the Hunter Biden prosecution is that the state attorney's office and the DOJ had a myriad of felonies and misdemeanors that were textbook violations that could have been charged, went to trial, indicted, and turned over. And Hunter Biden, if his name was not Biden, he would have been fucked. But because the prosecutor wanted to play footsie with the defense team, all these indictable crimes were allowed to lapse past the statute of limitations. And these are not low-level IRS employees who got on the job a year and a half ago. They're people who have been prosecuting public corruption and organized crime for decades. So you're asking me, can a state attorney who wants to play footsie with political figures not charge a crime? My answer is absolutely the fuck yes, and we've seen an analog in the Hunter Biden case.
Sure, that wasn't my question though, and even just to expand that out more, I think there are several reasons why they could choose not to prosecute a case. Right? It doesn't just require wanting to play footsies with some type of political figure. You would agree with that, right? There could be
maybe there's national security concerns.
Right? Maybe there's national security concerns. Maybe in this individual case, like you take into consideration the person in front of you, the severity of the crimes, their likelihood, like all of these things could have been weighed in theory in their decision to prosecute these crimes.
Yeah. I don't trust their judgment. I don't trust their judgment, and I want to know what the judgment was at the time, and I also want to have them comply with the law that was passed near unanimously by the Congress. That's what I want. So if you want to tell me there's a myriad reasons why Alex Acosta and this other state attorney who eliminated these charges, there's a myriad reasons why they could have dismissed this case before it went to trial, I want to hear those reasons in compliance with the law that my Congress passed. And if they're good reasons, maybe I'll change my tune. But if they're terrible reasons, I'm not changing my tune at all.
Do you see this case being this obvious exception because it has just like caught the attention and frenzy of so many people? Do you see possible drawbacks, possible issues with this type of transparency, if we want to call it that, of our legal system? Do you see how this, like, if this is how we handled all cases, how this could have like severely negative implications on innocent people?
I live in Florida, and we have the Sunshine statutes, which effectively means that every case at the state level is public. And no, I don't care about the second order and third order effects. I prefer transparency to the state invoking some sovereign right to privacy and then fucking clamming shit up. No, if it's alleged that people are bad people, but then the state doesn't have enough to indict them, I would rather the allegations be out there than be sealed for some maintenance of public reputation.
Well, why is it maintenance of public reputation?
What's that?
Why is it necessarily maintenance of public? Sorry,
I mean, there could be another reason. So for instance, like with this is a complaint about the Sunshine statutes. The Sunshine statutes, whenever you file like an injunction against somebody, you have to list your telephone number, your current telephone number and address. So technically, if the person wanted to harass you, they have your telephone number and they have your address. You just made it easier for them to stalk you. But what happens is if they stalk you, you document it, you go back to the court, and then the court punishes them for stalking. So yeah, there's plenty of deleterious, and there's probably murders that have happened as a result of this. There are probably people who have domestic violence injunctions who see the current listed address and phone number of their victims, and they've traveled to that address and they've murdered the victims. It's probably happened.
So according to my handy dandy AI, the Sunshine laws, and they're pulling from the Florida bar here, so that's the only source cited here. Sunshine laws don't apply to unindicted co-conspirators themselves. The laws govern meetings, records, conduct of public boards, commissions, and agencies, not private individuals, even if they are involved in criminal activity. So it sounds like what you're calling for, there are still protections against people who their name may be raised in some way in some type of legal action, but the court has determined for whatever reason, maybe nefarious ones that you're insinuating, maybe good ones, maybe the evidence doesn't flesh this out. But so even according to the laws that you're holding up as the gold standard in Florida, that would not have revealed the names of the unindicted co-conspirators in Jeffrey Epstein's case.
I'll tell you right now that they.
So do you want the laws to go further?
No, I'll respond to exactly what you're saying. Orange County, or I could go to the Orange County Clerk of Court's website right now. If you knew somebody who was in trouble in Orange County, if I knew their name, I could search it. I could click on it. Every single entry in the file, motions to dismiss, witness statements, all that bullshit, it's there. I can click through it. I can scroll through it. Not just that, I can also do a Freedom of Information Act request for any case, any city or county, state. Hold on, I'm not done yet.
That has always existed.
I can do a FOIA request for any city or county, and I can pull reports for decades, and I can get unredacted, sworn written affidavits with the victims' names. Or alleged, or unindicted alleged co-conspirators. You can maybe do that.
So FOIA it's not an automatic process. Someone still has to determine whether they're going to release that information. So you can maybe get that.
Well, but again, neither was the Epstein law. The Epstein law wasn't an automatic process.
Going through the FOIA process is separate. Yeah, go ahead, Kay.
Sorry, if something's not indicted, then it doesn't make its way to the court system. So like some of these filings are not there, right? Like not.
I don't even know if that's true. So for instance, like,
well, according to the Florida bar, that's correct.
I don't trust the way that you ask the AI. I'm telling you what I know. So there is a case number that like, so for instance, like, let's say that we're talking about the Lake County jurisdiction. Lake County jurisdiction, whenever you do a call, you could literally go to somebody's house for a call because their dog was barking. That generates a call number. That call number, if it becomes a case, is oftentimes transposed as the case number. Then all of the sworn written affidavits, all the photos, all of the body camera footage, everything is accessible via that case number within that jurisdiction, particularly at the police department. And then the only place that I'm going to leave room for you, because the state attorneys have access to all of that. State attorneys have access to all of that. So the only way that I would presume that some of the information could be lost is if the state attorney, in order to go to a grand jury indictment, omits unnecessary evidence, because there's like hours of body camera footage that has nothing to do with the case. So you wouldn't include that in the judicial process, right? You would omit that stuff. But the reason why sworn written affidavits not being a part of the judicial process freaks me the fuck out is because that's the evidence I need. You're saying that like you need evidence of malfeasance. In order for me to get the evidence of malfeasance, I need the sworn written affidavits from the people in the Florida case from the early thousands that was sworn, that was either sealed or not transposed by Alex Acosta. That's what I need.
But don't you see there's like I don't know the proper word for this. I'm sorry. It's early. I don't have my all words here, but it's a little bit of a, like, you're doing, respectfully, a little bit of the conspiracy minded thing, which is lack of evidence is also evidence for my theory, right? So if we just had these unsealed 17 sworn affidavits, then we would know, right? So let's say, for all we know, these 17 sworn affidavits are like written in Mandarin, and they're just like instructions on how to operate a toaster, right? Okay, so maybe actually the information that would come out wouldn't help your case at all, Connor, right? That's number one.
Sure.
Number two, maybe it does in theory. Maybe the 17 signed affidavits come out, and again, they're just the most horrific thing ever. This person raped me and then ate my friend, okay? The cannibalism, all of it.
Yeah, but it wasn't deemed credible.
But that's still... Exactly. So even just having that information doesn't actually necessarily get us any closer to the truth. It feels like the conspiracists really have the upper hand here, right? Because lack of evidence is evidence for the conspiracy.
What fact have I asserted in reference to Jeffrey Epstein that you think is either like in dispute or even disproved by the facts that we currently have?
Well, I mean, okay. Well, you call Donald Trump a rapist.
A pedophile
you
rapist?
refer to him. Yeah. So that is certainly in dispute.
I think he's an ephebophilic rapist based off of available information.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that's certainly in dispute.
It's in dispute for sure. It's in dispute.
Okay. Well, your
I think I have
question to me,
sufficient
Connor, was
evidence
what
in
have
order
I
to call him an
claimed that's in
ephebophilic
dispute?
rapist
No,
without
that was your specific question to me. Is what is in dispute that I've said so far. So
yeah, but that's not Jeffrey Epstein. That's Donald Trump.
So these things are totally distinct?
No, of course not. But I'm asking you, what fact have I asserted about Jeffrey Epstein that is in dispute?
So my understanding is that it's Jeffrey Epstein's relationship to all of these powerful people that feeds these conspiracies and makes this so interesting to people at all, right?
Yes, but
I mean, you would agree, right?
Like, hold on.
The people in your chat, for example, Connor, the people in your chat are way more concerned about like the Jeffrey Epstein, who may have singularly abused a bunch of young women. You would agree that women in your chat, or sorry, not the women, the people in your chat are way more concerned about that than, for example, the rape gangs going on in the UK, right? So it's not just about protecting victims. There is a very
I yell at them about the rape gangs as well.
Valence. I know you do. I know. I'm making the point about your chat, not you. I'm not impugning any of this on you.
Yeah, chat's retarded. Don't listen to them.
My point is that people...
I'm kidding. I love you, chat. Give me money.
I don't. Yeah. My point, though, is that these things, it's not just about like, me bringing up Donald Trump is relevant to the claims on the Jeffrey Epstein case, because people are not just upset about the Jeffrey Epstein case because there are potential victims. A lot of people I don't want to say they don't care about victims, because like in theory they do. And if they were ever confronted with one in person, they would care. And if it was their cousin or their sister or whatever, they would care. But these people are not motivated to do all of this because of these precious victims, right? They are very happy to turn away from other victims that don't feed them the same convenient political narrative, or especially if it counters a convenient political narrative for them, right? Like religion of peace and open borders and stuff.
You cannot. This is a statement that has brought me a lot of peace in the online politosphere. You cannot hold movements accountable for hypocrisy. It's impossible, especially in the American binary political tribalism. If there's a liberal who makes some statement of principle, another liberal is going to make a contradictory statement. Same thing with libertarians, fascists, communists, whatever. Political tribes are just inherently hypocritical because they're made up of many people who have many different principles and competing principles. Hold on, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
You can hold individuals accountable for hypocrisy. So for instance,
Sure.
if I was unilaterally alarmed about the Jeffrey Epstein pedophilic sex trafficking ring, but I showed no alarm about racist sexual grooming gangs in the United Kingdom, then you can say, hey, Connor, it seems like your care for sex crimes against teenagers is only as serious as your political tribalism. And you would be correct. But that actually has no bearing on whether or not you should be alarmed about Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking or the grooming gangs in the UK. The truth is you should probably be alarmed by both.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yes, I agree with that. Right. However, I can highlight the hypocrisy because I think the hypocrisy is at the core of why people are getting this whole Epstein thing wrong. Right. Because I do think this is being used as a political weapon, and people are swept up in a moral panic over something that was bad enough, but they've now added layers and layers of like deranged fantasy on top of.
If you're arguing with and unfortunately, I know this position is popular, so I might even be able to articulate the position that you're fighting against. So if you're saying that Kyle Kulinski implying that the Iranian regime change war is solely motivated by simultaneously Israel having sexual blackmail on Donald Trump to force him into the war, and then also to distract from the conspiracy theory surrounding the Epstein files, then I think you have more than enough wiggle room in there to call Kyle Kulinski a fucking idiot. Absolutely.
I don't even need that. I don't even need that to call Kyle Kulinski.
But I don't think that I am participating in the same level of idiocy that Kyle Kulinski is.
You're not.
No, and I
have my own flavor of idiocy.
Correct.
And
Correct.
while I may not agree with you, like it is not
Okay. I wanted to
as much of a bummer. Like you are not Kyle Kulinski.
But what's the so is the bummer thing? Is the bummer thing that I'm buying into the moral panic? Is it because it's useful to Kyle Kulinski idiot types that I give them ammunition? What's the bummer part of it?
That you're bringing it up when it's likely not the contributing factor to the war in Iran. Like, it's not even like it was a conversation.
Well, I mean, that's why I said it was
Epstein.
a 70% meme, but like, there's absolutely a part of me.
Yeah, but you're still choosing to. Yeah, right. So there is a part of you that believes that. And if I had to guess, Kay doesn't believe that.
There's a part of me.
And like,
but I don't even think I was insinuating. I actually don't think that the blackmail is most relevant. The insinuation, which I probably should have clarified, is more that a war, a Middle Eastern and North African conflict, substantially distracts from the zeitgeist in reference to the Epstein files. That's like the implication. The implication I was trying to make.
Yeah, I think that's like boring. I think that's low hanging fruit, frankly. And people have been, first of all, I don't even know how true that is. People have been saying this with everything that Trump does, right? Actually, frankly, before the Epstein stuff, right? So even in Trump term one, right? When I was a super partisan Democrat and progressive radical, essentially, is what I was. Everything that Donald Trump does was seen as something to distract from another. And that could be true in these smaller ways about specific instances, right? But that's how a lot of left-wing people frame essentially anything that Donald Trump does, right? Is he's trying to give you a story over here so you won't look over here, which again can lead you open to conspiratorial thinking. If that's the framework that you plug into every action that Donald Trump takes, well, okay, then what does he not want us to look at, right? That leads people to a conspiratorial framework of approaching things, number one. But yeah, I just don't think people have been saying this about the Epstein stuff in particular, about everything that Donald Trump has done in Trump 2.0, the Venezuela, tariffs, literally everything. People say he's doing this so that you guys will stop talking about Epstein. And to a certain extent, that has failed, right? It is, as we all know, I mean, it is the Trump base or, people on the right side of the aisle who cared about all this Epstein stuff at all, frankly. The left was not concerned with any of this. And so it's not
Which, by
like,
the way, I found alarming, but continue.
sure, yeah, but so it's not like I just basically, I guess my point is, I don't think that even starting a war with Iran would enable him to outrun these accusations. You know, that people are so deranged about this, rightfully or not rightfully. They're so passionate. That would be the less charged word, because let's say it's rightfully. People are so passionate about this stuff that it hasn't seemed to go away yet. That's A. And then B,
Well, I think it's the
because of all
Streisand
the things
effect.
that you laid out. Sure, yeah, certainly. But all of the reasons that all of the geopolitical reasons that you laid out just make so much more sense that it's like, why even throw that in there? But you threw it in there because you believe it, and that's fair enough. You're not.
Well, I mean, I think I also threw it in there because I was also trying to joke a little bit. So for instance, like if you, what happens in this space, right? If you exclusively have conversations about geopolitical reality and tariffs and logistics and all that kind of bullshit, I mean, you're gonna lose 2/3 of your audience because they're just gonna get fucking bored, right? You have to throw in a little bit of sex and blood and violence and drama and interpersonal beef and all that kind of bullshit. So yeah, the Epstein thing.
That's why Kay and I strip at the halfway mark of all of our
Nice.
streams.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We have plenty of Gooners in chat, so I'll start
Perfect.
raiding into you guys so the Gooners can get theirs. But
Perfect, yes.
but the thing about it is, I think that you are consistently stating that there is a conspiracy mindset that is leading me down bad paths or leading other people down bad paths. But I think that my frustration with that is if I go down a conspiracy path and then I find something that is factually inconvenient to the person I'm accusing of bad behavior, and then their option is just to continue to accuse me of conspiracy thinking, well, that doesn't exactly dismiss my concerns. So, for instance, going back to the Hunter Biden thing, when I have because these are the facts as I understand them. There were two gentlemen who worked for the IRS as seasoned investigators of criminal actions of both organized crime and public corruption for decades. Up until now, they were model employees of the IRS. They get involved with the Hunter Biden corruption case. They have basically tax fraud violations that are headshots, like provable crimes for tax evasion in 2014 and 2015. They also have charges from like 17, 18, and 19. And they go to they whistleblow and they go to Congress and they say, if Hunter Biden's last name was not Biden, this would have been indicted, charged, prosecuted, convicted, and incarcerated within a matter of months. But because this guy's name is Biden, the prosecution is playing footsie with it. So when people say, oh, well, you're engaged in conspiratorial thinking, that doesn't dismiss any of the facts that I've outlined. And then what's even more alarming is they say, well, defer to the justice system. Just trust the system to play out. Trust Congress to play out. And you know what ended up happening when I trusted the system to play out? Weirdly enough, it went my way. Merrick Garland, despite trying to be like as objective as possible, he still ended up charging and being accused of sweeping for the Bidens at the same time. He ended up charging felonies and misdemeanors related to this case, resulting in Hunter Biden being basically up for federal indictment and incarceration, and his father had to pardon him. But nobody who was accusing me of conspiracy brain ever updated their tune. They never said, oh, he did get charged with felonies and misdemeanors. Oh, my God. The FBI whistleblowers were totally correct. Nobody fucking changed their tune.
Let me jump in because I think maybe you'll hear this differently, or like maybe this will be an inroad of where we can, our minds can meet a little bit.
Hold on, I gotta tell somebody to kill themselves. Just Julius, kill yourself, okay? Because Merrick Garland literally was going to charge felonies, and Hunter Biden had to take a fucking a pardon in order to avoid incarceration. So eat a barrel of dicks. Don't tell me to read shit when you fucking haven't read anything. Sorry, anyways, go ahead.
That was beautiful. So everything that you just laid out makes total sense to me, and I want to agree and acknowledge that yes, like, okay, my brain's going in 5 different directions. So let me try to make the clearest point first. That is all very plausible, and I think like let's put our like reasonable adult cap on here, right? So would someone want to avoid charging for these types of crimes, right? When it's the president's son, there might be political pressures, right? All of these things. That to me is more reasonable and understandable than making that same calculation about heinous sex crimes. I think we have to, if we're just like considering where people might feel pressure and where they're willing to draw their own personal moral line, because as you point out, even Merrick Garland, right, was not willing to play that game, basically, even though the level of the crimes that we're talking about are much less heinous and much less significant than child rape and sex trafficking, right? And so the mindset that you're explaining for the people involved in charging Hunter Biden, to me, is more reasonable and less conspiratorial than all the people who would have had to be involved in disregarding heinous sex crimes for a much less explicitly clear political advantage or pressure there.
Okay. The fastest way to get me off of my conspiracy soapbox is to comply with the law. I hate to put it like that because I could argue back and forth with you, and the truth is that I don't have, I think they call it like falsifiable or whatever. I think I have non-falsifiable claims, right? You cannot prove me wrong because I am making assertions. Bad. Yeah, sure. But I'm making assertions that you can't disprove because we have partial evidence and not full evidence. Okay. So
but what I'm saying is disprove it, Connor. Arguably, we couldn't disprove any. You just kind of admitted it. It's unfalsifiable. So even if all of everything came out and we could prove that everything came out entirely unredacted, that still might not be enough to disprove it to you if you see it as unfalsifiable, unless you're saying that it's just temporarily unfalsifiable because you believe that the specific redactions or the specific files that we haven't seen yet contain all of the damning information that would confirm the conspiracy. Is that the assertion?
I think the strongest one in reference to that is going to be the Florida affidavits. However, hold on, let me articulate this for you real quick. There are facts in contention that there's facts that are real, or I believe are real based off of the sources that I have, and then there's the inferences made off of those facts. So the fact that Jeffrey Epstein worked with British military industrial complex people in order to facilitate the Saudi Arabian deal in the 1980s, until proven incorrect, to me that is a truthful fact. The fact that he worked with Adnan Khashoggi, a weapons arms trafficker in the Middle East and North Africa, in order to facilitate the Iran-Contra affair and the Safari Club, that is a fact that has been asserted that has not been disproven. Okay?
Okay.
So you would have to
bring us back to like the sex crime pyramid here, because again, like, yes,
well, hold on. I haven't even gotten that far.
Just objectively.
So okay. The only thing that I'm trying to articulate here is the fact that Jeffrey Epstein had international intelligence and military's armed trafficking ties. That's the first.
That's never been in dispute, really. All of that was known before these files were released.
Okay, so let's say that is a fact. Okay.
That he was a well-connected, suspiciously well-connected. Yeah, bizarrely well-connected for any one individual, certainly.
Okay. Then here's a separate fact. Jeffrey Epstein has been accused of sex trafficking teenage girls for decades, and when he was sentenced by the state, it seemed like he got a very, very, very lenient sentence. That's the second fact. Now, what I would say that you guys are accusing me of doing, which is true, is that I'm taking one fact and I'm implying that they're related. You're drawing lines where we don't because have them. He is getting preferential treatment for a criminal prosecution because he's well connected over here. And I'll agree with you that I cannot prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. Right? I can't. I'm not psychic. I don't know Alex Acosta. I can't read his mind. I don't have the Florida grand jury transcript, or even if we have the Florida grand jury transcript, I don't have the sworn written affidavits of the victims. I can't get that far. But what I'm saying to you is I think my inferences are reasonable enough and obvious enough that I'm not trafficking in the same level of conspiracy mongering that other people are.
You
It's
are
my own
not as
brand of
crazy as the
stupidity.
craziest people. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
undeniable that you are not as crazy as the craziest among us.
Okay. Then that's really where I wanted to get. I don't want to disappoint Kay, and if I am going to be viewed
I know, me
as
neither.
if I'm going to be viewed as a rabid conspiracy theory idiot freak, then I want to be classified as my own distinct version of that. So I want Kay to hate me for me. Okay? Not for what other people not for what other people are doing with what I'm saying. Hate me for what I say.
Yes, and had I, I could have made a more succinct, or maybe not succinct, a clearer statement in chat.
You know me, I'm sensitive.
But all to say, yes, and like, so am I. On certain topics, right? So I might just be a little.
No, if somebody, if I have also, a veteran,
like the whole thing came after, I think, I don't know, there was like other talk about Israel right before that. So it's in a melange of issues, and not just you. It was like possibly something like Pisco had said, and so
sure.
All to say, I'm glad
I jumped into
your logic does not flow from the Kyle Kalinske school of thought, and as long as it's not coming from exactly there.
No, I jumped into a rhetorical political bear trap for the chat's entertainment. That's what I did. I was like, oh, is this a mess? Can I make this messier? Boom! And then I jumped into the bear trap. But I jumped into it hopefully for some people's entertainment. Yeah.
Well, you should know, Connor, that our audience here is made up exclusively of the most based grill hottest in chat.
Yes. Good. We need to not only do we need to grow together, but we need to build that community, because frankly, like the far left wing is obviously driving me crazy because I think they're having way too much influence on the left. The far right wing has been driving me crazy because I think they're doing a bunch of evil, nefarious shit. So actually having like sane center left, center right people who are trying to piece the world apart earnestly because they actually care about things, that's more the people that I want to associate with than political tribalists who just want to make money off of the world's suffering.
Yeah. Or even if it's not about who want to make money off of the world's suffering, there's just a lot of political tribalists.
Yeah,
sure, clout. Even if we like remove all of those self-serving things, there are a lot of people out there who are deranged. I mean, and it goes to the extent of, it's not just the creators, right? Yeah. We see it's the chats too. It's the call-ins. If we talk about this whole sort of destiny arc, right, of like we need to be illiberal in the face of whatever. It's not so just the people who stand to benefit. I know you are. No, I know you are. And Kay and I often talk about your chats like on our little stream here. But so it's not just the people who stand to personally financially benefit from this who are in this mindset. It's a lot of like everyday people who have kind of radicalized themselves in this way.
I think Stephen has done, I'm hoping anyways, I'm hoping he's done enough of a good job to police his community in the past that I hope that most people are just venting or whatever. But if he had not gone to war with his chat in the past about like super heavy moderation in reference to Mr. Girl or Lavloon or whatever, then I actually would be worried that he had held on to so many deranged schizophrenics over time that eventually there would be a DGG like terrorist attack, unironically. Like there would just be somebody who got sick of like talking about it and they would go do it, and then they would check their Discord, and instead of having a trans roommate, they would be a DGGer. So that's where for me that's so alarming, especially with Charlie Kirk getting killed recently, that I want him to slow down.
Well, and that's alarming for me too. But even like short of that, even short of like some terrible, horrific, violent incident,
it's still just not good.
I'm deeply concerned. Yeah, like the negative polarization. I know it's like that's the most common thing to say. It's not an original thought, but like that is the crux of like our issues in America. Like we disagree so vehemently, and we believe our opposition is evil.
Yeah.
It's like, how the fuck do you even get past that? So even if the radicalization never leads to harm against another person in the real world, I'm also concerned about the person sitting in their room stewing constantly, believing that their neighbors and the person who's checking them out at the supermarket all secretly hate them, are secret fascists, would kill their gay brother and their trans cousin. Like that is, and that's what I've been saying really since the beginning that I've started speaking on the internet, since my ideological turn, is all of this shit is so bad for the individual's mental health and our cultural landscape of like social cohesion and functioning. And it extends to the way our government's able to function, right? They are extraordinarily negatively polarized. So yes, I'm concerned about people going out and acting rashly and all of these things, but I'm really concerned about the American psyche.
No,
Really
I couldn't have said it better myself, and I'm probably in complete lockstep on this part of what you articulated. Is the reason why I try to cultivate the community that I do, even though I am sensitive and I do ban people, is because I really want people who wake up every single day, go to work, take care of their family, take care of their communities, care about the world, but also know that they have a limited sphere of influence. And within their limited sphere of influence, they're trying to make it more positive. And I think as a result, we have disproportionately attracted people who, number one, financially support the channel, but also number two, seem to be, even if they're flawed people, they seem to be like really well intended. Like they care about the world and they're trying to take care of stuff. And that's already a cut above. I mean, I swear to God, 70% of Twitch and YouTube politics is just non-playable character piranha who are just trying to rip each other to shreds. So yeah, it's pretty bad out there. But what I would say...
Sorry, can I say something really quickly just to expand on that? Because I completely agree, but I want to challenge that a little bit, only because I completely agree. You really don't have like super crazy people, like these deranged people. That's not your sphere at all, whatever.
Or we keep them as pets.
Even if there's people, sure, yeah, even right, that's true.
They don't dominate the chat. We just keep them as pets.
Yeah, but I guess my only issue with what you're saying, and I agree, and frankly, I agree that these people are well-intentioned, and this can go for both sides of the aisle, but I think we're mostly talking about people who are like left of center generally right now in this like general internet sphere that we're all in, right? We are in a left of center internet sphere, even if the three of us are right of center, ideologically and whatever. But even amongst the in fact, it's maybe worse in the case of the well-intentioned people, because they are because it's not nefarious, it's not whatever, like well-intentions kill. That's really an extreme and dramatic thing to say, but so much of what I see that went wrong with wokeism, is an overflowing of actual good intentions, an actual desire to make the world a better place, to make the world kinder and safer and all of these things. And it still can lead to really bad outcomes.
The path,
right?
No, the path to hell. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you were saying, what is it? The most delicious of moral treats, or whatever it is, like
Aldous Huxley's quote. I stole that from Chud Logic, but I do love it. It's like to be able to destroy in good conscience, to be able to like something like that. It's like the most delicious of moral treats. And by the way, part of the reason why I feel that is because the Marine Corps trained you that way. You are righteous. You are a crusader. You are totally correct. You don't need to care about the other side. Matter of fact, caring about the other side is weakness, because it might breed a level of mercy that makes you hesitate in the moment of truth. It's this pure black and white thinking, and it's really attractive. Like, especially when you're like enraptured in it, like you're like, oh, I'm on a crusade, let's do this. But then what happens, especially with a lot of warriors, is when they leave the war, or they experience something that's morally gray, or they see somebody on their side do something that's morally messed up, it just shatters them spiritually, because they could not believe that their side was capable of wrong or evil. And so you're really like, you're left with two psychological choices. You either cope for it and you make excuses for it, or you decide that the world is actually really complex and messed up, and even really good intended institutions can do horrible shit. But that requires a level of like nuance that not a lot of people are comfortable with.
Right. And it makes sense to have that, like when you're at war.
Right. It's like
when you're
arguably
part
necessary.
Part of a military team. Yeah, like that's probably a good, a good premise to operate under for group cohesion and for safety and to make sure everybody's on the same page. But it's like taking that out into the real world.
Disastrous. And it will, the more we allow it to seize our zeitgeist, the worse it's going to get. So yeah, like I'm with y'all in lockstep.
Yeah.
But it is 2:53. So I'm roughly 25 minutes over schedule. I do have a cold lunch that I need to eat. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to encourage, I don't know how to rate on YouTube, but I'm going to encourage all of my remaining girl hottest to come over to you guys. So it's morally neutral with K and Tali Botz. I'll just pull it up on YouTube and I'll spam it in the chat. But yeah, what do you guys, I'm going to go full screen again so you guys can talk, but can you tell whoever I got left, oh shit, I still have 100 people left. Tell them and what you do and what you like and what you're trying to do on the internet.
Well, I'm Kay. You guys probably know me from chat. My channel is morally neutral, morally loaded. And Tali and I have just been having conversations online for the last, I don't know, it's a couple months now. And just kind of like discussing issues, trying to look at things from various sides. I don't know, but my goal is, I guess, to help people be more curious about how other people come to their political, political ideologies and political viewpoints, to encourage curiosity rather than, polarization.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh,
yeah. I'm Tali Botz at Tali Botz. I don't post much on my page. We stream on Kay's stream, although I always say I'm going to get some stuff out there eventually. But yeah, you guys probably know me from the chat, maybe from my struggle session with the Live and Learn boys. Yeah, Kay and I are both former leftists, for lack of better terms here. And so we both kind of see ourselves as right of center now. We comment on, these same cultural political things that that all the people in this sphere are talking about. We talk about the Live and Learn episodes, and we talk about the Destiny debates, and we talk about the Connor debates and stuff like that. So you'll fit right in if you come over here. But yeah, we try to. We are, again, we're former leftists. We see ourselves as on the right, but I think I would like to believe that we have an abundance of empathy and understanding for the side that we came from, basically. And so we're not just like out and out left-wing bashers, but we're not hiding the fact that we would consider ourselves to be on the right either.
Cool.
Yeah.
Then what I did is I might have actually linked it in your chat, but I also linked it in my chat. So I took the morally neutral or morally loaded with Kay and Tali Botz. I did link that in my chat as well. So I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to go eat. I'm just going to go yap with my chat with the session, and then I'm going to end. And then hopefully you get a few extra souls to pop in and say hi and hang out.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Let's do it again. Let's expand the Girl Hottest Coalition, and let's fight the good fight, even though it sucks. And I can say that you're sweeping for a pedophile, and you can call me a conspiracy-brained idiot, and then we can laugh afterwards.